Hello, my name's Stephen, and today we're going to be talking about developing writing skills for secondary students using Ting and 6 with iLearn Smart World. Now, we're going to be looking at 4 main areas. Number 1, why don't students like writing? Number 2, pre-writing. Number 3, we'll look at some engaging writing activities. And number 4, we will look at post-writing. So the first question I have is, why don't students like writing? There are a few reasons. Firstly, students don't like working alone. They prefer working in pairs and talking with their friends. And writing is a solitary activity. Secondly, they find writing boring. Thirdly, many students lack confidence in their writing. And the last one, they just don't know what to write. So, how can we solve these problems? How can we get students to like writing? Let's have a look. So firstly, let's look at before writing. What we want is we want students to plan their writing before they start. We want them to brainstorm ideas and keywords. And one great way of doing this is to use mind maps. Here we have an email. And what we want to do is we want to write a similar email about a city in our country. So how can we do that? Firstly, what I do is I'll look at the email, the example email, and I'll find some of the key phrases and bits of information. And I will use these to make a mind map about my city. So you can see in my example that I am writing about London in England, which is where I used to live. So let me write down some ideas in my mind map. It's a very big city. It has a warm summer and a cold winter. There are many old buildings and museums. There are many beautiful parks. And it's in the southeast of the country. So these are my ideas about what to write about London. And I will take these and write my email. And you can see, here is my example email using my mind map. So using mind maps is a great way for students to plan what they want to write and come up with ideas. And you can do this in pairs or groups or for single students. So before writing, we also want to allow students to create drafts of their writing. So they can create a first draft or even a second draft if you have time. Give them the chance to perfect their writing. Now we're going to look at some engaging writing activities. We're going to look at Mad Libs, group dictation, team writing, and placemat writing. And these are all activities that you can use in your classroom. Firstly, we're going to look at Mad Libs. Now, Mad Libs, I've taken this text here from the book. I'm going to use this to create a Mad Lib. And how can we do that? So, firstly, we get students to write down these 5 different things. Their favorite movie or book, their friend's name, a job, a kind of animal or monster, and an adjective. Now you can change this in any way that you want. You could focus on word forms such as verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, or you can have topics like this. And what we do, we get them to write that down, and then we put these words that they have written down into the text. You can see here with the numbers. So If I was doing Mad Libs in my class, it would say, Star Wars is a very famous novel. The author is John. The story is about a footballer who falls in love with a zombie. The novel was also made into a very boring movie. Many people around the world have read Star Wars. Now that sounds a bit crazy. When you do it in class, all your students will be excited and want to write their own Mad Lib and share it with the class. The sillier, the better. And this is a great way to get students to practice different word forms and also build their confidence in writing. Okay, the next activity is group dictation. Now this practices listening and writing. So in this example, I would read to my students this article called A Taste of Vietnam. And I would have the students work together, note down the key words and information they hear. You can read it a few times so that students have a chance to get all of the information they need. Now, they work in groups, they compare their notes, and they try to rewrite the article the best they can. So this turns a listening activity into a writing activity. It allows students to work together and sets them a challenge. Okay, the next activity is team writing. And this is great for formal and creative writing. What we do is we divide students into pairs or groups, and we give them a series of questions and a topic title. So our topic is A Great Day Out. And we have this series of questions that students have to answer. And you can write these on the board. Now, what happens is students have a piece of paper. They write their answer to the question. Then they fold the paper over, give it to their teammate, and their teammate answers the next question. And you continue around until all the questions have been answered. At the end of this, you will have a very funny text that your students will love to read to the class. Okay, the next activity is called placemat writing. And this activity encourages the sharing of ideas and gets groups to reach an agreement on what to write. Give the class a topic and divide the students into groups of 4. 3 is also okay. Now each student must note down their ideas in phrases in their space. So you can see here student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, and the middle is for the group. So after a certain amount of time, take the placemat and rotate it one place. Students can then add more ideas to their friends, and you keep rotating the placemat until students get back their original space. What happens then is the group can work together and they can create a text from their ideas, and they can write it in the center space. There are different approaches to this. You could have students writing a paragraph in their own space, and when they rotate it around, students can make corrections to each other's work. The placemat is a great activity. It encourages students to review each other's work, encourages students to share ideas, and also to reach agreement on a final text. Now let's talk about after writing. So when the students have finished writing, we want to correct their mistakes. But the best way to do that is to use correction codes. We want students to be able to see their own mistakes, and the best way is to use codes. Don't correct their mistake. If they've made a spelling mistake, don't write the correct spelling, just write SP. Make the student look at their writing and find the mistake. You can see we have spelling, we have verb form, we have punctuation, we have word order. Using these codes will get the students to focus on what they've written. If you feel the student won't be able to fix their mistake, then you can fix it for them. As students advance and their English language level develops, you can just highlight sentences that have mistakes. That will get the students to focus in on that sentence and find the mistake. One great technique that you can use is to allow students to feedback on each other's work. Peer review. This takes practice, and you can use this as a first look. So maybe before you as a teacher check their writing, you can have their partner, blah, 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 a blue, 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 a blee, blee, blee. Okay. One other technique that you can use is peer review. And this means that you have students review and correct each other's work. And this works really well, but it does take a lot of practice for your students to get good at this. I would tend to use this as a first look, and after the students have reviewed each other's work, you can do a final check for mistakes. So, to summarize, pre-writing activities, we need to use brainstorming, we need to use mind maps, and we need students to be able to draft their writing. For engaging writing activities, we looked at Mad Libs, group dictation, team writing, and placemat writing. These are all activities that are fun and interesting for your students, and they make writing less boring. Finally, we talked about after writing, and this involves using correction codes and peer review. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for listening. Bye-bye.